Hello folks, welcome to Legacy Eyes Academy. In this video, we will be doing an analysis of previous year questions from Polity. Now, when I tell we will be doing an analysis of your previous year questions, we will take it from chapter wise, very important chapters which has very high weightage and you have to prioritize it more. Those such topics we will be taking. Now, one such topic that we will be taking today is your salient features of constitutions. Now, in this, I will try to cover all the topics or questions from your 2013 onwards. Okay, so we will be discussing a few facts as to why did UPSC ask this question, what were they trying to test from this question, and also what are the ways that you can study these priority topics based on how UPSC is asking the questions. Okay, so we'll start with salient features of the constitutions. The first question, this was a 2013 prelims question. In the context of India, which of the following principles are implied institutionally in the parliamentary government? So here the keyword is parliamentary government. Okay. First I'll read out the options, then we will deal with the answers. Members of the cabinet are members of the parliament. Ministers hold the office till they enjoy the confidence in the parliament. Cabinet is headed by the head of state. So these are the questions, right? Now let's look at this. What are they trying to ask? Which of the following principles are implied in the parliamentary government? So which are these? The features of your parliamentary form of government, which India is. Members of cabinet are ministers of parliament. In simpler sense, they are asking, ministers are also your MPs. True, because we have a fusion of what? Executive and legislature. Yes. So because of this, our ministers are also MPs and there is a fusion of executive and legislature, which makes this statement a feature of parliamentary form of government. Now let's go to the second one. Ministers hold the office till they enjoy the confidence of the parliament. This is true and this is one of the more core important principles of your parliamentary form of government. That is, COM and the government will be, or the executive will be in power as long as they have the support of your legislature. So this provides a concept of accountability. So this accountability or collective responsibility of COM towards, in this case your Lok Sabha, makes an important crucial part of parliamentary government. So this statement is also correct. Next, cabinet, here cabinet council of minister together we will be taking in, is headed by head of state. Now this is the difference between parliamentary government and presidential government. See, in a parliamentary form of government, we have something called two types of executives. Okay, what is it? Real executive and nominal executive. Nominal executive means someone like President of India. Okay, whose holding of power is more of symbolic in nature. So he is called as head of state. On the other hand, your real executive is your prime minister who has real power and authority, and he is the head of government and he is the one who is heading the cabinet. So it is equivalent to telling is cabinet headed by president? No, cabinet is headed by prime minister. So that makes this statement wrong. So the correct option is A, 1 and 2 only. Understanding? Now we have discussed the question. Yes, we saw nominal executive, head of state, real executive, head of government, all this we saw. Now let us try to understand as to why is UPSC exactly asking this question. First and foremost, to test your basic understanding of parliamentary form of government. Now, here is where you have to understand there are certain type of questions which are comparative in nature. For example, your nominal executive, real executive. So you have to understand who among these two are the real executive of India. And also, you have to understand the basic concept of fusion of power. In India, when we tell your executive is part of your legislature, that is because of one of the main attributes of parliamentary system. Understanding? Next, collective responsibility is what we call as heart of parliamentary system. This is the whole point we picked this, and this is also one of the most distinguishing feature between parliamentary system and presidential system. So, what is the source of this question? It is present in Constitution of India, where we can see it in Article 74, 75, Council of Ministers, appointment and responsibility, same as with respect to your state legislature also, 163, 164 articles. So, what is the takeaway from this question? If you see, fusion of powers, collective responsibility, and also your leadership of prime minister and dual executive. So these are some of the core features which makes Indian parliamentary system as it is. So you have to stress more in trying to understand what is parliamentary system, how is it different from others, and how is it different from presidential system. Understanding? So what are we supposed to understand into this question means if you understand the system, you don't need to memorize the answer. You don't have to physically by heart parliamentary system 6 points, presidential system 6 point. Okay, if you understand one and why we pick this, it will make it easier to eliminate the options. The next question, largely lot of scheduled based questions are also asked, okay, in the salient features. Now look at this particular question. Which one of the following schedules of the Constitution of India contains provisions regarding anti-defection? This is a 2014 prelims question. Second schedule, fifth schedule, eighth schedule, 10th schedule. The correct answer is 10th schedule of the Constitution. Now, as I told you, your schedules have been asked a lot of questions. First and foremost, you have to see about anti-defection means you should not just see how it is 10th schedule. It was brought about by your 52nd Amendment of 1985 and it was further strengthened by your 91st Amendment. That is where your concept of splits, mergers, all of these were brought. What exactly is UPSC expecting from this particular question means the ability for you to link your static and amendments. Okay, when exactly what this bought? Was this always there from the beginning of the constitution? Here is where you have to see. When the constitution was created, it had only 6 schedules. Um, when the constitution was created, it had only 8 schedules. Understanding? Next, why has UPSC asked this question? This is pretty much a straightforward question where they're trying to test on your schedules, parts, and articles. This is something that we can largely expect. Okay. Now, if at all we will see why anti-defection is specifically asked in yours means it is something that is relevant with regarding to your political as well as constitutional intersection. A lot of times we see many parties having mergers. Okay, so there'll be a lot of disqualifications, right? So because of those respective current affair and trying to link it with your constitutional aspects. Okay, so your politics, that is your party discipline, defection, your independent candidate, when can he join a political party, and in this case independent cannot join. If he joins, then he will be defected. How about a nominated person? What is the timeline he has? That is within 6 months. All these features you have to remember. So this kind of questions on anti-defection is the right way for your UPSC to pick questions which is both polity and governance. Why governance? Again, your party discipline of dealing with this. Understanding? So how exactly UPSC is picking this question? It is direct but selective. Again, based on linking with the current affair also. And also, one simple thing, this I told you, this is a straightforward question. There is no elimination tactics in this. You know it, you know it. You don't know it, you don't know it. Then how exactly should you remember this? Through revisions. Multiple revisions is what will help you recall. Okay, so your UPSC more of rewards your revision discipline. See, first and foremost, you cannot answer even easy questions if you don't revise properly. So revision becomes the key for these kind of straightforward direct questions. Now we'll take a look at all of the schedules. Like I told, we have originally 8 schedules. As of now, we have 12 schedules. We will see what are the schedules. First schedule speaks about the states and union territories. Second schedule about the salaries and allowances of your constitutional authorities. Third schedule speaks about oath and affirmation. It would be better if you by heart all the 12 schedules. Fourth schedule speaks about your Rajya Sabha seat allocation. And fifth schedule speaks about scheduled areas and scheduled tribes. Sixth schedule speaks about tribal areas in the northeast. Seventh schedule is about your union, state, and concurrent lists. So it's about lists. Eighth schedule is official languages. Ninth schedule is your laws which are protected from your judicial review, or at least that is what it was brought about initially. And 10th schedule is your anti-defection. 11th schedule is panchayat, and 12th schedule is your municipality. Understanding? Next question. Again, like I told you, lot of schedule based questions are asked. The provisions in 5th schedule and 6th schedule in the Constitution of India are made in order to. This is a 2015 prelims question. So why 5th and 6th schedule are made? To protect the interest of scheduled tribes, to determine the boundaries between states, determine the powers, authority and responsibility of panchayats, protect the interest of all the border state. The correct answer here is for protecting the interests of scheduled tribes. Understanding? So now we have discussed the answer. Now let's see why exactly they are asking this question. Before that, what is 5th and 6th schedule? 5th schedule is applied to your schedule areas except your Mizoram, Assam, Tripura, Meghalaya, and it's applicable to all of the schedule areas in India, again except these 4 states. What is the focus of this 5th schedule? If you see, it is largely for your welfare of scheduled tribes. Now, why are you focusing on scheduled tribes? Because they have their own customs, land protection, cultural protection, identity protection. Yes, for that reason, we have 5th schedule. And also here is where we will be seeing the special provisions and powers of your governor, understanding as to which of your parliamentary provisions will apply, will not apply. Next is your 6th schedule. This applies to your tribal areas in your northeastern India of your Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Tripura. Here it is more focused on your autonomous district council, self-governing units. Here also we will have the differentiation of autonomous regions and also tribal advisory councils. Understanding? So here more autonomy is given. Okay. And again, same thing. It is about trying to protect your tribal customs, culture. Alright. Now why has UPSC asked this question? See, first and foremost, to understand tribal governance is extremely important for the governance of India also. As in, India comprises of a huge chunk of people in which tribals are also one section. Now, that is constantly linked with the concept of your inclusion, okay, and also providing autonomy coupled with your regional autonomy and integration, the feeling of unity. All this have to be achieved means your adequate provisions have to be looked into. That is where your 5th and 6th schedule area will come into picture. Next question. Right to vote and be elected in India. This is a 2017 prelims question. A fundamental right, natural right, constitutional right, and a legal right. The correct answer is it is a constitutional right. Okay, most times people will confuse it with respect to your fundamental right. See, understand one thing. Your judiciary has clarified that your right to vote will not come under fundamental right. We do not recognize much of natural rights. Legal rights are more like your secondary rights, which are coming from your statutory acts. If you say right to vote and right to contest elections are not fundamental rights, which means they are not provided from Article 14 to 32, but they are specified in the Constitution. Okay, they are mentioned in the Constitution. So, one thing if you see, why exactly UPSC asked this question? Because of a very common confusion people have that okay, we have political rights, which means right to vote is coming under fundamental right. So this becomes a popular target for misconception. So here what exactly UPSC wants to test, if you observe, it is the basic clarity on the type of rights. What is a fundamental right, what is a constitutional right, what is a legal right, understanding, and the distinguishing between your fundamental, constitutional, and legal right. Now, before we move on to the next question, let me just elaborate on this. See, in your Article 326 or your Election Commission of India, where we have spoken about Election Commission of India, which will conduct elections to India, so much so that your right to vote is considered like your heartbeat of democracy. Understanding, because democracy does not only mean conducting of elections, it is the strength of the institutions, mechanisms, implementation, all of this, right? So your constitution speaks about universal adult franchise, okay, which also includes your right to contest in elections. So both these as a matter of right come under constitutional right because it is mentioned in the Constitution. Okay. Now, next question. Out of the following statements, choose the one that brings out the principle of underlying cabinet form of government. This is a 2017 prelims question. Now look at this. What are they asking? Underlying cabinet form of government. Cabinet form of government is also called as your parliamentary form of government. Yes. Now let's see which of this has provisions which is speaking about parliamentary form of government. An arrangement for minimizing the criticism against the government whose responsibilities are complex and hard to carry out the satisfaction of all. Understand this, minimizing the criticism. Why will your cabinet form of government focus on something where they are going to reduce the criticism? So this statement is wrong. Next, a mechanism for speeding up the activities of the government whose responsibilities are increasing day by day. Speeding up of activities and your cabinet form of government, how is it linked to? Is something we can do deal with your governance topic, but it's nothing to do with the principle. Especially look at this word underlying, that is like something like core feature. So this is also wrong. A mechanism of parliamentary democracy for ensuring collective responsibility of the government to the people. Now look at this. This is the whole point why we picked parliamentary form of government. Okay, your executive has to be answerable to the legislature. Understanding? So this is the correct option. Let's see the last option. A device for strengthening the hands. Again, this would be something to do with the governance, but not with respect to the fundamental principle of your cabinet form of government or parliamentary form of government. So again, like we have discussed earlier, your parliamentary form of government has higher focus, understanding. Now, cabinet form of government, again I discussed, is parliamentary form of government whose main core or crux is collective responsibility. Here is where again you have to link between your presidential form and parliamentary form. Presidential form offers stability, parliamentary form offers responsibility. When India had to pick between these two, we first picked responsibility as a priority for India at that point of time. So this Council of Ministers or Cabinet are collectively responsible to your Lok Sabha. Okay, if they lose the let's say majority or the confidence of the House, then they have to resign. Understanding? So what does this question try to capture? Your parliamentary democracy, collective responsibility, and most importantly, accountability to the people. Okay. So this is one of the let's say underlying facts of your parliamentary form of government. Why other options there are wrong? Like we said, minimizing criticism is not a constitutional principle. It is only somewhat like an administrative convenience rather than a constitutional principle. Another option was speeding up activities. Again, speeding up activities is the efficiency, okay, is not the core principle of cabinet system. It is largely about how are the people able to hold the executives or people in power accountable or responsible. Then last option, strengthening the hands. Again, this is something that has to do with your executive, let's say with respect to your executives having delegation of function, all those, but nothing to do with your underlying parliamentary feature. So why did UPSC ask this question? Simple, to test the understanding of your parliamentary and presidential kind. Like I told you, the comparison based questions are easier to confuse, and also it is easier to, once you master, understand the topic, it's easier to crack these questions also. Okay, these questions are very important, especially in your polity, both prelims as well as mains. Next question. Which one of the following is not a feature of Indian federalism? 2017 question. There is, again look at this, is not a feature of Indian federalism. There is an independent judiciary in India. Independent judiciary in India is a very important feature of federalism. So we are asking for not. So independent judiciary option is not the correct answer. Powers have been clearly divided between the center and state. This is also a feature of federalism. So this is wrong. We are looking for not a feature of Indian federalism. The federating units have been given unequal representation in the Rajya Sabha. That is what how it is. Okay. Last option. It is the result of an agreement among the federating units. No, this was not a result of agreement among the federating units. And also, the key word here is which is not the feature of federalism. Again, here, which federalism? Indian federalism. Indian federalism was not a federation based on agreement among the states. So, keywords is both these. Understanding? So, correct option is D. Now, first and foremost, Indian Constitution, if you see, Article 1 states that India, that is Bharat, is a union of state. Okay, we tell we are union of states and not a federation of states. Why? Because they didn't come together based on an agreement. So ours was created not by states coming together but by your constituent assembly, which means we are more of holding together federation than coming together federation. Here what we are trying to speak about means federation or federalism as a concept. Federation, US ka federation is also there, India ka federation is also there. The question specifically asked Indian federation. Understanding? So Indian federation is unique model. So why has UPSC asked this question? Because federalism is a core topic largely that they ask in both prelims and mains. What did they actually wanted to test? They wanted to test the concept of holding together federation and coming together federation. So you have to first understand that federation does not mean, okay, it is one particular model. US is also federal. India is also, we call it federal. We have not used that, but there is difference in these models. So you have to understand the unique federal features of India. So they want to make you understand the distinguishing between theory and reality of practice. Your USA was more of a formed based on agreement. India was based on constitution made. Understanding? So there is several differences between both of them. So what is the question? Trying to tell Indian federalism is unique and it also combines federal structure with unitary bias, or many commentators would also call India as a quasi federalism. Understanding? Now let's look into the next question. This is 2017 question. The main advantage of the parliamentary form of government is that the executive and legislature work independently. Is the statement correct? Do they work independently? In the sense, when we tell do they work independently, don't you think your executive is answerable for its works, actions, etc. to its legislature? So this statement is wrong. The whole point of parliamentary form of government is your collective responsibility, accountability. It provides continuity for policy and is more efficient. This is not necessary, and also this is one of the features that we see in your presidential form of government largely. Okay, the concept of stability, continuity largely is seen in presidential form. That doesn't mean it is not there in parliamentary form, that it is not the core feature. Next, third one, the executive remains responsible to the legislature. Like we said, it is presidential, parliamentary. Presidential is stability, parliamentary is responsibility or accountability. So this was the feature why we picked parliamentary form of government. The head of government cannot be changed without election. No such things. Anyone who can prove the majority can be done. So this is wrong. Correct option is C. Now let's say, why was this question asked? Again, this is the same aspect bringing back to your parliamentary versus presidential form of government, where the collective responsibility is there of COM to Lok Sabha and the respective state legislature, which is seen in the Article 74, 75 for the center, 163, 164 articles for your state. So the government can be removed through your no confidence motion. That is, if the legislature has lost the support or your legislature has lost the let's say trust on the government. Okay, so why is this feature very important? Means because it leads to continuous scrutiny and democratic control. The people are having the control. Okay, so why did UPSC ask this? Simple, it is a core polity topic. Often wherever your distinguishing factors of presidential parliamentary come, this question becomes very important, and also this creates a concept based questions. Easier comparison questions can be asked in statement kind of questions. Next, 2019 prelims question. The ninth schedule was introduced in the Constitution of India during the Prime Ministership of Jawaharlal Nehru, Lal Bahadur Shastri, Indira Gandhi, Moraji Desai. Correct option is Jawaharlal Nehru. So what happened is 1950 Constitution came into force. 1951, in order to make your land reforms and also in order to have a protection for your collective land reforms, they introduced first constitutional amendment and added something called as ninth schedule. What is this ninth schedule? Any law placed in ninth schedule is now immune from your judicial review or striking out. This was done during your Jawaharlal Nehru period. Okay, what is this again? To protect land reform laws from judicial review. They also added Article 31B. Okay. Initially they added 13 laws. Now we have more than 250 plus laws. Look at this. Why did UPSC ask this question? Have a look at this. First and foremost, it combines aspects such as your history, schedules, amendments, and most importantly, your land reforms, which has been brought about. This has something to do with your post-independence India also, your governance also, the promises made to the electorate also. Understanding? And another most important thing is, it is easier for people to get confused with option C, Indira Gandhi, is because constantly many people assume amendments means it is during this period of time or during your Indira Gandhi era. Okay, so these are the things you have to be on the watch out for. Next question. Consider the following statements. The Constitution of India defines its basic structure in terms of federalism, secularism, and fundamental rights and democracy. Has Constitution defined the term basic structure? See, it was the output of Keshwanand Bharti case of 1973. But the Constitution has not used the term basic structure nor defined it. Okay. Judiciary in the due course of various judgments has told this belongs to part of basic structure. For example, federalism is part of basic structure, secularism is part of basic structure, but even judiciary has not defined this is what basic structure means. So first statement is wrong. Second statement, the Constitution of India provides for judicial review to safeguard the citizen liberties and to preserve the ideals which the Constitution is based. So even here, they do not have the term judicial review at all. Understanding? So the correct option will be D, neither 1 nor 2. Understanding? So here what you have to understand, or why UPSC is asking this question is, you have to find the difference between the literal and inferred. Literally, is the word basic structure there or is it inferred from the Constitution? So these terminologies are something that you have to be very careful about. Okay, this language precision, okay, was it used, is it in the Constitution, or was it inferred from the Constitution? This has to be important. See, earlier UPSC used to just ask direct factual questions, but now they are trying to ask the subtle wording traps such as defines, to safeguard, to preserve. Okay, so these kind of words you have to be very careful in the watch about. Okay, in the statement kind of question. Next, 2021 prelims question. Which one of the following in Indian polity is an essential feature that indicates that it is federal in character? Or in simpler sense, we are trying to tell that which of this is a federal feature? The independence of judiciary is safeguarded. The union legislature has elected representatives from constituent units. Union cabinet can have elected representatives from regional parties. The fundamental rights are enforceable by court of law. The most important thing in here, if you see, is you have to pick the most core or the most apt or most correct one. Among all this, the core feature is the independence of judiciary is safeguarded, becomes extremely important for it to have or be called a federal feature, whether be it India's model or with respect to your US model. Why did UPSC ask this? Again, it is a core concept of your federal feature, and also first and foremost, essential versus non-essential features. That is what I told you. You have to pick the most apt. Understanding? Everything may seem correct, everything may seem wrong. But in that which seems more apt is why you have to pick this. Core features of federalism means things such as your division of power, written constitution, independence judiciary. So these kind of things you have to look out for. Okay? Do not go into your nitpicking of your legalities. So the golden rule is pick the most fundamental or basic feature. This is what means federalism kind of features. Okay, it gives multiple correct option, but constitutionally if you see, it is more and more as to which is the accurate understanding. With this, we've come to the end of the content. If you like our content, subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it along with your friends. Thank you.